If this reached you, something in you was already ready before you even pressed play. Not ready in the way the world measures readiness, not prepared through study or effort, but ready in a quieter, deeper sense that most people never pause long enough to notice. There was a moment, maybe so small you almost ignored it, where you felt a pull to stay instead of scroll, to listen instead of move on. That moment matters more than you think, because it wasn't random. It was recognition, not from the outside world, but from something within you that has been paying attention for far longer than you realize. You were never told there was a test. No one explained the rules and no one handed you a guide. Yet somehow, through years of ordinary life, something was quietly observing how you responded when things didn't go your way, how you handled pressure, disappointment, and uncertainty. This wasn't about how much you knew or how capable you appeared on the surface. It was about something far less visible and far more important. It was about how you chose to respond when you could have reacted, how you held yourself together when it would have been easier to fall apart, and how you treated others when there was nothing to gain. Most people move through life assuming that only visible achievements matter. They chase outcomes, recognition, and validation, believing those are the markers of progress. But beneath all of that, there has always been a different kind of evaluation taking place. One that doesn't reward noise or speed or even success in the traditional sense. It measures something quieter. It notices the moments no one else sees. The decisions you make when you are tired, when you are hurt, when you are misunderstood. And the truth is, most people fail this kind of test without ever realizing it exists, because they are too focused on what's happening outside of them to notice what's happening within. But you didn't move the same way. Somewhere along the line, even if you couldn't explain it, you started choosing differently. You paused before reacting. You questioned things that didn't feel right instead of blindly accepting them. You felt the weight of your actions, not just for yourself, but for others. And those choices, small as they seemed at the time, began to shape something inside you. Not overnight, not dramatically, but steadily, quietly, almost invisibly. There were moments when it felt like nothing was working, when things didn't make sense, when you questioned whether you were on the right path at all. Times when being patient felt pointless, when doing the right thing didn't seem to lead to the right outcomes, when staying grounded felt harder than just giving in. And in those moments, you could have chosen the easier route. You could have reacted, blamed, or shut down completely. But more often than not, you didn't. You stayed. You endured. You chose awareness over impulse, even when no one was there to see it. And that's the part most people miss. They think growth is loud and obvious, something that shows up in achievements or recognition. But real growth happens in those quiet decisions, the ones that don't get noticed or rewarded immediately. The ones that feel almost invisible while they're happening. Every time you chose to stay calm instead of reacting. Every time you held on to your integrity when it would have been easier to compromise. Every time you tried to understand instead of judge, you were shaping something deeper than you realized. What felt like confusion was often clarity forming beneath the surface. What felt like isolation was sometimes distance from patterns that no longer aligned with you. And what felt like struggle was often a kind of pressure designed to reveal how you would respond when things weren't easy. Not to break you, but to show you something about yourself that you couldn't have seen any other way. And here's where it shifts. Because when you start looking back, even for a moment, you might begin to notice something. Certain patterns, certain moments where you handled things differently than you used to. Times when you surprised yourself by staying steady when you expected to fall apart. Moments when you chose patience even though everything in you wanted to react. Those weren't random changes, they were signs of something evolving within you. Something becoming more aware, more grounded, more intentional. You didn't suddenly become different overnight. It happened gradually through experiences that didn't always make sense at the time. through challenges that felt unfair or unnecessary, through situations that pushed you to your limits and forced you to decide who you were going to be in that moment. And each time you made that decision, especially when it was difficult, you moved a little further than most people ever do. Because most people stop when it gets uncomfortable. They retreat into habits, into reactions, into patterns that feel familiar even if they're limiting. But you kept going, even when you weren't sure where it was leading. You stayed with the discomfort long enough to learn from it instead of escaping it. And that alone sets you apart in ways that aren't immediately visible but are deeply significant. There's a difference between going through life and actually paying attention to it. A difference between reacting automatically and choosing consciously. And somewhere along the way, whether you noticed it or not, you crossed that line. You moved from being pulled by circumstances to observing them, from being controlled by reactions to becoming aware of them. And that shift, subtle as it is, changes everything. You may not have labeled it or fully understood it while it was happening. You may have even doubted it at times, wondering if you were overthinking or imagining things. But the truth is that awareness didn't come from nowhere. It came from every moment you chose to stay present instead of escaping, every time you chose to grow instead of repeating the same patterns. And now, something feels different. Not dramatically, not in a way that's easy to explain, but in a way that you can sense. A quiet shift, a subtle awareness that things are not exactly the same as they used to be. Maybe it shows up in how you see situations, or how you respond to them, or even in how certain things no longer affect you the way they once did. You might not have words for it yet. You might not fully understand what's changing, but you can feel it. And that feeling is not the beginning of something new. It's the recognition of something that has already been building within you for a long time. Something has already started changing, even if you haven't fully put it into words yet. It's not loud or dramatic. It doesn't announce itself in a way that demands attention. Instead, it shows up quietly, almost subtly in the way your days unfold and in how you experience them. You may have caught glimpses of it without realizing what you were noticing. Moments where things aligned just a little too perfectly. Times when the right opportunity appeared without you forcing it, or when something you needed arrived at exactly the moment you were ready to receive it. At first, it might have felt like coincidence, something easy to dismiss or overlook. But as it keeps happening, it becomes harder to ignore. There's a pattern forming, and deep down you can feel that it isn't random. You might start noticing that situations are lining up in ways that feel intentional, almost as if there's an underlying order guiding things. You think of something, and shortly after it shows up, you consider a direction, and somehow the path begins to open without the same level of effort you used to rely on. It's not that everything suddenly becomes perfect, but there's a sense that you're no longer pushing against everything. Instead, there are moments where life seems to meet you halfway. These aren't the kind of changes that demand attention from others, but to you, they feel meaningful. They feel precise. And the more aware you become of them, the more they seem to increase. Along with that, there's a different kind of knowing beginning to surface. Not the kind that comes from learning or being told, but something more immediate. You might find yourself understanding things without needing an explanation, sensing what's right or wrong in a situation before it fully unfolds. Decisions that once felt complicated now feel clearer, as if there's a quiet certainty guiding you beneath the noise. It doesn't mean you never question anything, but even your questioning feels different. It feels like part of a process, not a sign of confusion. And when clarity comes, it comes quickly, almost effortlessly, as if it was already there waiting for you to notice it. At the same time, your emotional responses may have started to shift. Situations that once triggered strong reactions might not affect you in the same way anymore. You still feel things, but there's more space between the feeling and your response. You notice what's happening internally instead of being completely consumed by it. Where there used to be immediate reaction, there is now a pause, a moment of awareness that allows you to choose how you respond. This doesn't make you distant or disconnected. If anything, it makes you more present, more aware of both yourself and others. You begin to see things from a wider perspective, one that isn't limited to a single emotion or viewpoint. You may also notice changes in the people and situations around you. Some connections that once felt strong might begin to fade, not because something went wrong, but because they no longer feel aligned with who you are becoming. At the same time, new people or opportunities might appear, often in ways that feel natural rather than forced. Conversations feel different. Interactions carry more depth. It's as if you're gradually stepping into a different environment without physically going anywhere. And while this shift can feel uncertain at times, there's also a sense that it's happening for a reason, even if you don't fully understand it yet. There are also moments when reality itself feels slightly different. Not in a dramatic or overwhelming way, but in a subtle shift in perception. Time may feel faster in some moments and slower in others. You might become more aware of your surroundings, noticing details you would have overlooked before. There can be a sense of being guided not by something external telling you what to do, but by an internal awareness that seems to know where to go next. It doesn't give you full answers all at once, but it leads you step by step in a way that feels natural and steady. What's important here is not to force meaning onto every experience, but to recognize the pattern that's emerging. These shifts are not about becoming someone completely different overnight. They're about becoming more aware of what's already within you. The clarity, the alignment, the subtle sense of direction. These are not new additions to your life. They are aspects of your awareness that are becoming more accessible as you continue to pay attention. As this continues, you might find yourself trying to explain it logically, to understand it in a way that fits into what you already know. That's natural. The mind looks for structure, for definitions, for something it can hold on to, but not everything needs to be fully explained right away. Some things are meant to be experienced first, understood later. And the more you allow yourself to observe without forcing conclusions, the clearer these patterns become. There is also a deeper layer to this that becomes easier to notice over time. The way your thoughts, emotions, and actions begin to align more naturally. The way decisions feel less like struggles and more like clear steps forward. It's not about having complete control over everything, but about moving with a sense of coherence that wasn't there before. And that coherence changes how you interact with everything around you. What once felt uncertain begins to feel guided. What once felt forced begins to feel allowed. And in that shift, you start to recognize something important. You're not just reacting to life in the same way anymore. You're participating in it differently. There's a level of awareness present now that changes how everything is experienced, even if the external circumstances haven't dramatically changed. And as this awareness continues to deepen, it leads to a realization that ties everything together. These patterns, these shifts, these moments of clarity and alignment, they are not random improvements or isolated experiences. They are connected. They are part of a larger progression that has been unfolding over time, shaped by every choice you made when it mattered most. You may not have recognized it at first. You may have thought these changes were small or insignificant, but when you step back and look at them together, a clearer picture begins to form. Something has shifted within you in a way that changes how you experience reality itself. And once you see that, even briefly, it becomes impossible to completely unsee it. That realization leads to an even deeper question. If these changes are real, if they are consistent, and if they are connected to how you've grown and responded over time, then what was it that brought you here in the first place? What exactly did you do differently that allowed this shift to happen? And more importantly, what does it mean for what comes next? If you really look at everything you've been through, not just the outcomes, but the way you move through those moments, a pattern begins to reveal itself. This was never about how intelligent you were, how much you knew, or how well you performed when things were easy. The real measure was always something deeper, something that only showed up when life stopped going your way. It was about how you handled pressure when no one was guiding you, how you responded when you were misunderstood, and who you chose to be when reacting would have been justified. That's the part most people overlook. They think growth is about gaining something new, when in reality it's about revealing what was already there under stress. The moments that mattered most were often the ones you didn't think counted. The times you stayed calm instead of escalating. The times you chose honesty when it would have been easier to avoid it. The times you acted with integrity even when there was no reward waiting on the other side. Those weren't random decisions, they were reflections of something stabilizing within you. Something that doesn't depend on circumstances to stay grounded. And that's what made the difference. Not perfection, not consistency in every moment, but the overall direction of your choices when it actually mattered. There's usually a point for almost everyone who reaches this level of awareness where everything feels like it falls apart at once. Plans don't work out, relationships shift or end. The identity you were used to no longer fits, and for a while it feels like you're losing more than you're gaining. It can feel like failure, like you've gone backwards instead of forward. But looking back, that moment wasn't a collapse. It was a clearing, a removal of everything that was built on something temporary so that something more stable could take its place. In that space where things felt uncertain or even empty, you were faced with a choice. Not a dramatic, obvious one, but a quiet internal decision. You could hold on to frustration, blame, or resistance, or you could step into something more grounded. You could choose to understand instead of react, to accept instead of fight what you couldn't control, and even if it wasn't perfect, even if you struggled through it, you leaned more in that direction than most people do. That's what shifted everything. Not the situation itself, but how you moved through it. After that point, things may not have suddenly become easy, but they became different. Solutions started appearing with less force. Situations began resolving in ways that didn't require the same level of effort. It felt less like pushing through resistance and more like allowing things to unfold. And with that came a new awareness, one that carries a certain weight to it. Because when you start to see how your internal state influences your external experience, you also begin to understand the responsibility that comes with that. It's easy to think of growth as gaining control, but what actually happens is a shift in relationship. You stop trying to control everything, and instead you become more intentional with what you bring into each moment. Your thoughts, your reactions, your decisions, they start to carry more awareness behind them. Not because you're forcing it, but because you can see the impact more clearly now. And once you see that, it's hard to go back to moving unconsciously. This is where many people misunderstand what this stage really is. It's not about becoming powerful in a way that separates you from others. It's not about having something that makes you superior or special in a visible sense. If anything, it makes you more aware of how connected everything is. The way your actions affect not just your own path, but the people around you. The way your presence influences situations without needing to force anything. That awareness doesn't inflate the ego, it steadies it. And the truth is, what feels like something new isn't actually new at all. It's something that was always there, just not fully accessible before. Not because it was hidden from you, but because it requires a certain level of stability to handle it without being pulled off balance. As that stability develops, what was once out of reach begins to feel natural. Not in a dramatic or overwhelming way, but in a quiet, consistent sense of clarity. That's why trying to chase this state doesn't work. It can't be forced through techniques or accelerated through shortcuts. It unfolds as a result of how you move through real situations, especially the difficult ones. Every time you chose awareness over reaction, every time you stayed grounded when it would have been easier not to, you were building the foundation for this. And now that it's here, even if you're still adjusting to it, it's not something you can lose easily. It's part of how you see and experience things now. There is, however, a level of responsibility that comes with this awareness. Not in a heavy or overwhelming sense, but in a quiet understanding that your choices matter more than they did before. Not because the stakes are higher in an external way, but because you're more aware of the ripple effect they create. You start to notice how small shifts in your perspective can change the direction of an entire situation. How staying grounded in one moment can prevent unnecessary conflict in another. It's subtle, but it's real. This doesn't mean you won't face challenges or moments of doubt. You will, but the difference now is how you relate to them. They don't define you in the same way. They don't pull you as far off center as they once did. There's a level of stability that remains, even when things are uncertain. And that stability is what allows everything else to function the way it does. When you take all of this together, the choices you made, the way you handled pressure, the shift that happened when things fell apart, and the awareness that followed, a clear picture forms. This wasn't random. It wasn't luck or coincidence. It was the result of a consistent direction in how you approached life, especially when it was difficult. And now, without needing to announce it or prove it to anyone, you've reached a point where that internal shift is established. Not perfect, not finished, but solid enough to recognize. You don't need external confirmation for it because you can feel it in how you respond, how you think, and how you move through situations now. So instead of searching for something more, take a moment to recognize what's already here, not as an achievement, but as a state you've grown into. Something that doesn't need to be forced or constantly questioned. It's simply there, steady and present, shaping how you experience everything from this point forward. If this resonates, not just on the surface, but in a way that feels familiar, then you already understand more than you think. And if you had to put that understanding into a single word, something that reflects where you are now, what would it be?